The markets are starting off the week on a positive note as investors are shrugging off the latest Trump tariffs. We'll be discussing that and much more today on Money Never Sleeps. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. As we get going, do us a favor, hit that like button. If you're new here, subscribe to our channel if you're so inclined. Remember, nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice, so please do your own research before making any buys or sells. Kev, we did not have a show on Friday. We had a jobs report that was underwhelming, revisions that showed less jobs added than was previously noted. No surprise there. Markets responding, you know, they were down a little bit over the weekend, starting to see a favorable bounce today. Nothing on the economic data side at this moment in time, nothing that we got this morning, but we will have CPI data on Wednesday, PPI data on Thursday, and what the markets are really going to be looking at tomorrow and Wednesday, Jerome Powell testifying in front of Congress. So that is going to be an interesting start to the week. Thank you very much, House. I'm trying to grow a beard. My dad and I are taking a trip, and we're going to Antarctica, and he wanted to grow beards, and his looks much better than mine. But anyway, Powell testimony Tuesday and Wednesday. An hour and a half before he testifies on Wednesday, we'll get that CPI data. So I'm guessing that will be discussed as well. But how are you feeling about the current state of the markets and the direction we're heading into, which seems to be a pretty important week?
Yeah, this is a really volatile week. I expect us to see a lot of swings. I think we're probably going to rally until he gets to testify before Congress. It seems like it's likely to be the case. Then you start getting some of the data. I think we'll trade up and down for a little bit. And then we kind of have to remember that OPEX is the week after. So it could be a very volatile, next 2 weeks in the market. It could also be, a bit of a push up and then it kind of just plateaus. And then we wait till after OPEX to see some really good moves in the market. But I think the market's going to react a lot based off of what Paul has to say. And I think they're going to pre-pump this market into that. So seeing the green today does not surprise me in the least.
Yeah, expectations for CPI year-over-year headline number, expectation is 2.8%, which would be slightly down from 2.9. For core, expecting 3.1, be slightly down from 3.2 last month. So we have Powell talking, and I'm assuming a lot of it is going to be around inflation, rates, the job market, just the normal stuff. And we're going to get, people who don't know their ass from a hole in the ground asking really dumb questions and posturing like they're economic geniuses. So that's going to be fun. But what do you think kind of the messaging is going to be from Powell over those 2 days? Like, I don't think, we know him pretty as well as we can at this point, as far as he's not going to go out there and make any crazy claims or proclamations. But do you think there's anything that you're really looking for in his testimony?
No, he's going to be tight-lipped as possibly he can be, I think. He's going to get grilled. He's going to be sassy, a little bit back. I wouldn't be surprised. But he's not going to bend to anyone. That's kind of the messaging I've got. I mean, I think we've seen that from people who ask him these questions all the time. He's going to stick with what's in his head and what the, everyone else on the board is kind of come to the consensus of. And he's just going to stay. He'd rather say less than say too much, I feel. So I think that's kind of be the consensus from this week. And the markets might like that. The markets might not like that. I mean, it's really dependent on, I think, the data and how bad he gets grilled. But I don't necessarily think he's going to, show his hand too much this Wednesday or whenever he's in front of Congress.
Yeah, tomorrow and Wednesday. Both days he's there. All right. I mentioned the jobs data. Anything that stood out when we saw that? Like I said, 143 jobs added last month, came in under the expectation of 169. The previous month of 307, that was revised down. We saw a bunch of other revisions. So it's looking like the market, unemployment rate still holding strong at 4%. So, that ticked down a little bit.
That's
Huh?
something that made no sense, right?
Yeah,
I
I don't.
think the unemployment going down, and then you find out that the revisions were worse than we initially anticipated. So it's like there's still some funky stuff going on with the labor data. I don't think anyone questions the fact that it's accurate. I mean, believes the fact that it's accurate still. I think we're still many revisions away from kind of getting an idea of where this labor market is. But, with what happens this weekend or this week, and then what we get based off of the jobs data as well this week, very good chance we could be in your theory of stagflation, where people losing their jobs and inflation going up does not seem like that's out of the realm of possibility. Seems like the most likely possibility as of right now, in my opinion.
Something's going on with your audio. It just sounded like you were underwater for a second. Yeah, House. It's just so fun on Twitter with everyone being experts in everything. A few weeks ago when we had those unfortunate incidents with the plane crashes, everyone was an aviation expert. That was a lot of fun. So it's just going to keep. People are going to keep. Everyone's like tariff experts. You had Pompliano pontificating on Twitter like he knows anything. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, that's we're definitely in this spot where everyone likes to pretend like they know everything. Maybe that's why we don't have the biggest audiences. We don't, have our heads up our asses, Kevin, and try to be experts in all things. Maybe do we want to pivot to that? Do we just want to like really lean into smelling our own farts and pretending like we know everything?
Oh, please don't say farts. I had some Super Bowl chili yesterday, and we might have to wrap up the show a little bit earlier than expected. Also,
It's
I've been guilty too of having my head up my ass the entire last year thinking this market was going to crash. I'm sorry, guys. I believe that this market was fair in some respects. Sometimes it isn't, but yeah, I think a lot of these people are just going to be running their mouths nonstop all week. That's why I just don't go on Twitter as much anymore either. I think you're better off just like touching grass. If you're living in a place nice enough where there is grass and not snow, um, get outside. This market sometimes will just drive you fucking nuts. And even worse, people are trying to act like they're smarter than they actually are online. Not fun. Not fun at all.
No. Let's look. We don't need to make this a long one today with no data. Like we'll have plenty to talk about Wednesday. Yeah. But let's just kind of go quickly through some stocks and the crypto market a little bit. We're seeing tech leading the way today. No surprise there. Nvidia up about 3.6%. We're seeing, Apple kind of flat, but Amazon up on the day. Tesla's actually down on the day. One that I'm still looking at is Airbnb as an opportunity to try to short them. They report earnings in 3 days. They're moving, like, if you look at their charts on the daily, moving toward being oversold. And we're seeing kind of, on the longer time horizons, a little bit more middle of the road there as far as the stochastic RSI goes. But I think that this is, maybe they get a little nice pump into earnings, but I think that I don't know, man, kind of getting, I'm not trying to like force anything here, but I see it's kind of breaking out of that channel a little bit. What are you seeing on the Airbnb?
3 days, it's going to pump, most likely, in my opinion. I think this is still in that that bull flag. But I've said this, I am bearish as could be after OpEx. I think February 24th on into, the end of Q1, very bearish time. So I could easily see this pump in and then just dump right out of. So, see how it kind of plays the next few days. I don't think anything's going to dump massively until after OpEx. But if the market has a bigger correction into March, this is a good, opportunity to get into that maybe. I'm not playing around with options anymore. I don't like them, especially with how much options sellers and just made money in both directions. We'll talk about GameStop in a second. But yeah, this is possibly what we're going to see. I think we are going to break out of this. We're testing that upper, resistance line. And then it gets above there. People feel great. Earnings come out. Maybe they're a little bit better than expected, or they're not as bad as people expected. I think that's more of the case what's going to be. And then you can see, a lot of insiders maybe get out at a higher price. Very possible, but I do agree with you. I think this thing is going to shit. I just think that there's going to be a little bit of fuckery before we get our major drawdown. So I think you are going to short it. I think you have the balls to do it. And I think it's going to happen probably when you get a good level. I would say the level I'd be looking at 148, and anything above that might be not a bad place to get in. Again, most important thing, time horizon when it comes to these shorts, because this could last a month or it could be 3 months. It could be a year. We don't know.
Yeah. I think like getting, if it gets up to 150, I think that's a good place to enter a short.
I agree.
Just not financial advice, yada yada yada.
Yeah,
The volatility, like who knows, man? It's a Trump, as a Trump presidency, that means the markets are going to be extra volatile. Who knows what he's going to say next? So, yeah, let's look at the VIX here, and then why don't we go to GameStop, and then we can hit crypto and kind of wrap it from there.
Absolutely. So I just want to pull up UVIX real quick, which we'll look at the VIX real quick as well. But the reason I pull this up, I just want to get rid of the EMAs because we're trading in this really weird. This is a bull flag. It's an absolute bull flag, but you're just kissing the bottom end of this trend line so much. And I think you will for the next few days. I pull up this because this is obviously an ETF. This is the one that I'm using to long the VIX. But this is what I'm looking at right here. The Bollinger Bands are getting really close, and we are, 14 days out from when I think the market's going to probably see a major volatile spike. It could happen a few days before or after that too. But you're seeing these close, and every time you see these close, you tend to get a really big move to the upside. You got a little bit of close here in July, and then you had the yen carry trade that kind of blew up there. You had it right here as well in December, and then you got that VIX spike that we got in December. Obviously, it was crushed pretty significantly, but given what we've seen across the board, even if we look at the reverse repo, this is getting pretty close to being. I should get rid of the Bollinger Bands on that. We're getting close to being completely drained from this, and the bank term funding program is near zero. It's at 197 million. So I think by OPEX, we're going to drain a lot of these facilities. And then you kind of don't have any extra liquidity. So if you can't have any liquidity to run into the market, it's probably going to pull back. Now, I do think that we are going to get emergency repo. I think that's probably going to be the thing that kind of saves the markets for a few months. That's something Powell probably might even talk about the next 2 days. The idea of maybe doing repo injections. They already started back in January 24th. It's going to be interesting, though, to see how this VIX plays out, because the VIX right now, too, in a kind of a megaphone pattern at the bottom, you can tell how manipulated this is. How many weeks in a row are we going to get this same pattern? This is very much a crush. At some point, it's not going to be able to be contained. The fact that they keep having to crush it like this and the way that they do it, either with treasuries or they just keep the market flat and it automatically just kills all volatility from the markets. I wouldn't be surprised we kind of just keep hugging this, and then we break out of it at some point. Now, why this is interesting too, because this kind of goes in line with the yen carry trade. We could see that the yen was in this major bear flag and it broke out of it. It's to the downside. It is testing the bottom of this to see if it can get back in. How many days do I think we have until this thing goes? Let me see, from where we currently are to where I think, what is that? That's 10 trading days, which makes sense. I think there's a good chance we can get back in this and then we could lose it. But when we look at the Bollinger Bands too, it's very similar to where we were back in June, except that we're on the rollover now, and now we're going to probably come and see this down. It's not the Bollinger Bands I really want to look at. It's the EMAs. Yeah, the EMAs, you're trading below the 200 moving average, and here comes the 50. So you might get that fake death cross rally, and then it breaks back down below it. But the last time you were below the 200 EMA, you went very fast down to this 141 level, and that's Monday, August 5th. That was when the yen carry trade unwound, I should say. I don't know. I'm not an English major, but seeing where we are here, it's very possible we have another unwind, and that we're at 152. Dollar gets weaker here, and then the yen gets stronger. It's a good chance that it gets even worse in Japan. And then where is it? The Nikkei. I promise this has something to do with GameStop. Let me just find the Nikkei real quick.
Taking a real roundabout way of connecting it to GameStop, but we'll just keep going.
Well, the reason why is because this is going to cause a greater market crash, right? And then we're going to see a lot of cheap GameStop most likely. And we also know that UBS is in both the GameStop trade and the yen carry trade. So there is a good chance that they have an absolute unwind and they have to produce those shares that people are recalling or exercising on these options. So obviously the Nikkei dumps, UBS is probably going to take a big hit too because of all the Credit Suisse debt. Where are you, GameStop? It's at the top. And then there's a good chance that this triangle that we're trading in for GameStop is just absolutely parabolic into, even if we are crashing, maybe it pulls back a little bit, but it offers a really good opportunity if UBS or some of these banks or institutions that are, shorting GameStop to have to pretty much buy back in their positions to make sure that they can afford to. Otherwise, they're going to have unlimited losses in the market. There's a very good chance that we still have this major squeeze. I mean, we're kind of even seeing it today, right? Seeing a pretty good move back into this major triangle here. This is kind of just a wedge that we were trading downwards into, but we broke out of this. I don't like the gap down there that might get filled, but we're at 26.99 right now. We're up 9.14% today on GameStop. It's a good move. And a lot of this does have to come with Michael Saylor and Ryan Cohen taking a picture over the weekend at Mar-a-Lago. Do I think that's necessarily a good strategy for GameStop? I don't know, but I think that there is enough momentum to cause some hype around that could push the price up and be a little bit more uncomfortable. Again, do I think anything's going to happen before OPEX next week? Probably not, but I think that it could offer for March and April some really good opportunities, especially once we break out of this triangle, the 14th of March, to be some explosions, to the upside for GameStop potentially. That is, if everything works out accordingly. We do see the yen carry trade unwind, start seeing some of these institutions that were shorting it have a lot of pain in the market. And then, once people start exercising and start recalling those shares, if they were short, they're going to have to pay the premium of, a short squeeze. And that could be, I'm not saying it's going to go to $1,000 a share, but I think it's very likely it can go to $64 a share, 120. And, if it were to go absolute parabolic, probably $340 a share. That'd be very impossible right now. But if it's in the moment of a short squeeze, I think that is actually a pretty good level that we could potentially see. But 120 is around the level I do expect us to tap, just because that's where we were in May. But if this is going to be like 2021, when they did recall those shares, then we're probably going to see a bit more of a push to the upside. Outside of that, nothing too much in GameStop in terms of technicals. Let's do Bitcoin, and then we can pretty much wrap it up here.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
Also,
like I said,
Fartcoin is on a hell of a run right now. Up 55% from the local bottom on Saturday. Just showing a lot of strength and resilience in this market.
Is that Portnoy coin still doing good too? Was it Stool President?
It was like Jail Stool or something. I don't know. It's been too many things. I can't keep up. I'm a simple man. I can't. I farts are funny, so I monitor Fartcoin, but I can't keep up with all the Portnoy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Stool, fart, it's all about shit, isn't it? All shit coins in some respect, but crypto right now with Bitcoin, it's very boring. You don't need me to say that, right? I think everyone kind of agrees that it's been a boring few days for Bitcoin. We're going to see what happens. It hasn't been necessarily a most bullish time for crypto by any means. You're seeing alts come back a little bit, nothing too crazy. Again, I mean a little bit. I mean, the most I'm looking at right now is 1.72 for ETH percent to the upside. But for Bitcoin right now, you're below the 50 moving average on the daily. Let's pull up the Bollinger Bands to see what's going on here. If these starting to tighten, expect some type of volatile move either to the upside or to the downside. Obviously, it's going to be one or the other. I would expect it to be more to the downside, given that we're probably looking at maybe a more of a market correction based off of liquidity in the system. That being said, where could we go? I have people out there who think this is the end of MicroStrategy and the end of Bitcoin. I don't necessarily agree that's going to be the case. And again, I think that MicroStrategy will eat shit at some point, but I think that's going to take a lot more than Bitcoin going down to like 73,000 for them to lose, right? If the average is 65,000 or so that they paid per Bitcoin or whatever it is, then they're not going to lose money if it goes down to 73. They're still in profit, based off their cost basis. What I'm expecting more than anything is at least the 200, which is at 83. And I think that we have really good support at this blue line, which is at 74,000. That would be my bet for where we're going in the next month or two. That'd be my expectations for a little bit of a market correction, just based off of look at the monthly. The monthly is extremely overbought. It's kind of nasty to look at this chart, but you kind of are topping out here, right? You're not pushing up any higher. You're not even getting the wick to where the all-time high was. You actually have a red month, and we did dip pretty low this month to 91,000 in a flash crash. That was from an Asia unwind, and if Asia has more problems, I would expect nothing different from that, and that could actually fill this gap right down here on the monthly. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's where we are heading. On maybe not this monthly chart, but the next one, we could get a touchdown to the 73, 74. Maybe a trade sideways for a few months, right? Maybe we get closer to that 90,000 level. Maybe we push up a little bit higher. I will say this, though. for me to believe that we are going to all-time highs, if we do go down to that 73 level, you would need a fuck ton of liquidity to come in. That's just my guess. Maybe people do buy the dip, or institutions buy the dip, and they just have fun trading this over the summer. But I don't think that we're going to go north of $109,000 for Bitcoin again if we go down to that 73. If we break 80 to the downside, we get to 73, 74 especially, I don't think we're going back to 109. But that could offer Bitcoin dominance to come back significantly, and we could see an altcoin rally, from March to July, August or so. Then you're kind of pushing it, in my opinion. But Bitcoin dominance could have a really good push to the downside. And what would replace it? Likely USDT. And why is this important? Well, USDT is back on the trend line. Wild, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if this chart kind of comes back into play and you start seeing people switch to stables if we do get a sell-off. And if we do see the sell-off in the stables and dominance is taken away from Bitcoin, I mean, that's kind of, a discount on alts, and you could see the altcoin rally happen from there. Let's see. Look at ETH. Now, I'm not saying ETH's going to do shit. Sorry. Eric Trump is like Jim Cramer to me, and I don't think he's going to be the one to tell you what's actually going to go up or down. Since he's told us to buy Bitcoin and ETH, both have done nothing. So be that as it may, this thing still looks like shit. Probably by the time we do our next show, we're going to get a death cross. I'll be playing that. I mean, that's insane how close that death cross is on ETH. Look at that. Last time we saw that, yen carry trade. Wow. Isn't it funny how things kind of come full circle? Interesting. So that's fun there.
Stupid piece of shit token for so long. Oh my god.
Hey, we're covering shit coins today. That's all we're doing.
What are we doing? ETH is the ultimate shitcoin, the shittiest of shitcoins.
You wanted to see Fartcoin, right? Wrap it up with that one.
We don't have to. I mean,
I got it right here.
There you go. I mean, look,
65 cents.
Yeah.
When it was trading at 274,
the upside is tremendous.
Why didn't I don't know. I'm an asshole. I don't believe in this bullshit crypto stuff, but I didn't believe in it back then. And now I'm looking at it, I'm like, it looks pretty good. Do I think Fartcoin will go on another run? I don't know. Maybe. If it gets cheap enough, maybe I'll put in like $100 and see what happens. But this is absolutely insane. Even this move to the upside, that's 34%. That's a really good return in one day. Absolutely insane. Do you know why it's going up, or is it just fucking stupid meme like tokenomics?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like Portnoy was talking about Fartcoin. There's just been more attention on meme coins the last few days. So it's very sound. It's very strong money. Like it's the hardest, even though it's a gas. It's the hardest of monies. So really nothing.
Because Mahomes shit himself last night. That's why, right?
If Powell talks about Fartcoin at one of these hearings the next 2 days, I'm gonna I just hope that someone brings it up. I hope someone brings up crypto and Fartcoin is brought up, and that would just be the best.
I mean, at this point, I expect nothing less.
All right, that's gonna wrap it up. We're done. We're going off the rails here. Appreciate those of you who watched today. If you have not yet, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back on Wednesday, same time, same place. Until then, have a great week. Stay safe in the markets, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.